Hey everybody, welcome to my suburban oasis. My name is Soleil and I garden in Zone 6A in mid-Michigan, and it is the beginning of June and we're going to do our weekly garden tour and walkabout today. And I have to tell you, I don't even know where to begin today because it is just so beautiful in the garden. We certainly had a ton of rain and lots of wind, but that's not going to stop us from enjoying the garden today because it is gorgeous. Let me start taking you around. Well, over here you can see we started with our blooming phlox, and our hydrangea is just budded up so close to bursting, isn't it? And these pots are looking amazing with all of the fantastic little tiny blooms. Aren't those alyssum beautiful? And as we head up to the porch, I got some cute new tables. So I've set up this nice little table for my little baby potentillas, as well as my Blue Point false cypress, which are growing on really well. And hopefully, well, let me take you down this way actually. We're gonna go past these lemon meringue potentillas, and we're going to go into the most floriferous part of the garden because, oh my goodness, you guys. Can you see this? Do you see all of these gorgeousness of flowers? I can't even talk. Look at these snapdragons. These are black prince snapdragons that perennialized for me. They stayed over from last year and they are simply gorgeous. They just look like red velvet. They remind me of stage curtains. And backed up by the Johnson Blue geranium, which is not to be outdone by the salvia here. We have the purple salvia as well as the new dimension pink here. I mean, the flowers are so big you can barely see this false cypress back here. And the bumblebees are just all over the blooms today. And as you can see here in our half moon garden, we're really starting to pump up the flower power as well. Our hibiscus are now actually above knee high, and those are the evening rose hibiscus, so they have really beautiful foliage. And then we have the white wands veronica, along with the telstar purple dianthus, and some of that new dimension pink salvia. And isn't this rose gorgeous? This is the high voltage rose. It's looking so stunning. And we have all sorts of things going on in the potager garden right now. I'm going to let my kale go to seed, so you can see that flapping over here over the strawberries, which all of the chipmunks are eating. I've gotten like 2 of them and that's about it. But in the potager garden right now, we have those beautiful junipers that are doing great. And I dug up a viburnum that was in the garden and potted that up right here. And I also had a spirea that I dug up right here. So that's fun. The lavender is getting ready to bloom. This is the one that my son brought home from school as a little small plant in a cup. And of course the lady garden over here has just filled in so magnificently with color. All of the telstar purple dianthus. We have the gorgeous barberry. And we have some daisies that are coming up right now. And still with the foxgloves blooming. You can see we even had some snapdragons come back in this garden this year. So yeah, I think they're actually hardy down to like zone 6, something like that. Maybe it's a zone 7, I'm not sure, but we had a really mild winter this last winter, so it's wonderful that they perennialized. Here's my tiny tough stuff hydrangea, looking pretty good. And we had a seedling from the coralberry shrub that is planted right here. And then look at the phlox, you guys. Aren't these gorgeous? I'll just come back so you can see what it looks like. from here. Isn't that beautiful? So many blooms. Now as we come in, I'll tell you a little bit about what each one are, or each one is. Right here we have the opening act phlox from Proven Winners, which is called Blush. And then next to it we have Pinkadot, which is a pink dot in the center of a very light pink bloom. And next to it, they say that these only get to be about 2 feet tall, but this Boom Chocolata geranium has to be 3 feet tall. I'm telling you, it's almost up to my shoulder. And I'm 5 feet, so it's quite magnificent right now. You can see the light coming through this Amber Jubilee 9 bark, which the color from the spring is starting to go over because it really is only there on the new growth. You still see some of it. And then the pollinated blooms start to turn to these beautiful red color. Isn't that pretty? We have a few of those seed heads. And then over here, you guys, our hydrangeas, the smooth hydrangeas, are doing really well. They have loved all of this rain and they have just gone bonkers. In fact, this one is probably about 4 feet tall. It is almost in full bloom. I anticipate next week it will be. And this one looks great too. This one was the one that we did a transplant on, and so it's having to adapt and kind of grow back to be almost as big as this one, but it's still about half the size of this one. And just to take a look at the garden from here, you can see our hedge is getting really good with those privets. And the Tian Shen 7 Sun trees on either side. Our hawthorn is flowering. And we almost have flowers. We're still waiting on them opening on this pink diamond hydrangea. They're gonna come. It's just been so cool. In fact, today the high was below 70. So it's kind of crazy for this time of year. That's very abnormal for our part of the country. We're going to get some blooms on this smooth hydrangea here. This was taken from just a rooted kind of layering, self-layering thing that happened with my hydrangea. And we're getting still lots of new growth on the Scarlet O'Hara Pieris here, which is fantastic. And I am loving this look right now down this path, because just look at that Crocus Regal Hosta and that blue next to the Brunera. Oh, gorgeous. And then the Scabiosa. Over here, the beautiful light blue flowers, kind of a purplish blue. And you see the Schubertii still have these gorgeous seed heads on them. And the beautiful grasses. Look at that Hakona Chloe all gold. I never did come through and kind of take out some of it. I think I'm going to do that this fall. It wasn't too bad, or maybe next spring. I decided just to wait on that. Our Pinky Winky hydrangea here is really, really lush. And I replaced the swing with some gorgeous chairs from Bona, or Bona. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but these are a nice polywood chair, and they go really well with all of the pots and the chaise lounge cushions and things like that. So I think they just really bring a much more sophisticated touch to the garden. They're wonderful rockers. I have to level out the ground that's underneath of them, but there is a bumblebee nest that is down underneath one of them, and so I'm not going to do that until another time. And I didn't know that bumblebees nested in the ground. I don't know why I didn't know that, but I just didn't. I didn't even think about it. So yeah, I'll need to come through and level the ground a little bit more, but they're still really comfortable chairs, and they're a really nice place to sit and enjoy the garden next to this little bird bath. And I think they look beautiful next to that Sum and Substance hosta with the Japanese maple here. This is just a garnet Japanese maple, and the striptease hosta next to this beautiful bowl with some mermaids coming out of it. And that water does need to be replaced. It's just been, like I said, so incredibly cool. So I'm going to be posting some information about these chairs for you if you are interested in those. Here we have the beautiful heuchera. Finally, the rabbits are starting to leave them alone a little bit more. And we have a bloomstruck hydrangea in here. And I actually dug out the bobo hydrangea that was right over here, and I'll show you where I put it when we get out in the front garden. The little haughty hydrangeas are getting nice and big. Hopefully we'll get some decent blooms on these this year. Last year we really didn't get a lot, but they were pretty new last year. So this being their second full year in the garden, hopefully their roots will have established quite a bit more. We'll just take a peek back at the gorgeous meandering path right here as we listen to the birds chirp. Isn't that beautiful? I love the curve of the path. I did that very intentionally. We're starting to get some blooms on these gorgeous oak leaf hydrangeas. This is the Jetstream oak leaf hydrangea by First Editions. And just look at the size of the leaf on that plant. That's my hand, and that's the leaf. So these are really starting to mature now. And there's another one that is over here. Our dogwood is doing great. It has not bloomed this spring. I don't know if it gets enough sunshine to do so, but it has put on a ton of growth with all of this rain, so I'm really happy with that. Eventually I want to get rid of this buckthorn that is right here, and so I just have to wait for that dogwood to get a little bit bigger to be able to cast some shade. And next to it we have our Annabelle hydrangea, which is starting to push its blooms forward. And the autumn ferns are getting quite big now. I did cut back my Heaven Sent Polemonium right here, and it's already started to push some nice new growth, so it's looking beautiful. It may even rebloom for us. I've gotten most of my boxwoods trimmed back here, so I'm happy about that because it always makes the garden look a little tidier when they are nice and very crisp. And then we have some First Frost hostas right here with the blue and the creamy edges. This rain has really ignited the growth on these tassel ferns. This is a Japanese tassel fern, and I love the spiral growth pattern on these. Just gorgeous. So, so beautiful. And there's something about the amazingly fine foliage and the texture of those. I did divide our Christmas ferns here, and I placed one to the right as well as the left of this garden bench at the foot of it. I thought that would look really cute, so those are just adapting. I just did that yesterday. Our Queen of Hearts Brunnera is really beginning to push the leaves back out again. So we're going to have a nice lush one really soon. And this Let's Dance Can Do hydrangea that we planted last fall is getting ready to bloom. Very big buds on that. I see a baby maple tree that I need to pull. So let's get that out of there. Oops. And all of the hostas in this garden bed are huge. They just keep getting bigger and bigger with all of the rain, and now we're getting some sunshine finally too. It has been quite windy though here. How about you guys? This garden bed is looking really lovely with all of the pink catchfly. And we did get this boxwood trimmed up as well this last week. And we have the dusky violet penstemon in this bed. The firelight hydrangea is starting to bud up. This is one of the later blooming panicle hydrangeas in my garden. And over here, the goat's beard is looking beautiful. It's just probably at its peak a couple days ago. This is the Chantilly lace variety. This one is also from Proven Winners. And the pieris are starting to really show their seeds. There's so many of them this year. And lots of new growth, which is fantastic. The April night salvia have been blooming very well for quite some time now, about a week and a half. But I think the rain and the wind has really made some of the blossoms last a little less time, kind of throughout the entire garden actually. So the fothergilla back here that was eaten by, I think, either the groundhog or the rabbits is doing a great job of putting on new growth. The leaves are just huge on it. I did not expect that. So hopefully we'll still get some color on that this fall. Let's take a peek in the way back garden. All right, well, we will head down the stairs, then we will head back up them so you can kind of see what's going on. I've got my forsythia in here that's growing, and a second one right here. And we have 2 7 Sun shrubs, which I think are big enough so that they will outlast any deer munching, because they are definitely not deer proof. We have a pretty spirea that's happening right here. That one we transplanted last fall, and that's been a nice addition. It's the superstar. Then as we walk up this stairwell, you can see we have some sedge that is along here, which I think looks like a pretty little waterfall. Some irises and catmint, and I transplanted the Miss Kim lilac right here. As you can see, everything is super duper big, really, really big. The lungworts are tall, much taller than the ones that are up in my other garden here. The brunnera are really big. The meadow rue is getting ready to bloom. Our boxwoods that we transplanted back here are putting on some nice new green growth. I'm getting ready to shed some of their old growth. I think they are happier back here. Hopefully that is actually true. Our ferns and hellebores and brunneras are just really beginning to fill in this space. Have you guys had monster rainstorms like we have lately? Some of them have just been deluges. Deluges? I don't know if I said that right. Now it sounds funny. All right, let's head back and look at the long border. Well, the long border faces west, so that is why we usually see it in the sun as opposed to some of the other parts of the garden, because as the sun goes down, it is setting on this side of the garden and shining on it still. We have our snowdrift white rose that is beginning to open over here. I trimmed up this barberry so it's starting to put its color back on, and it's a nice contrast with the sedum beneath it, which is the pure joy sedum. And this is where we transplanted our false cypress right here. And I think it looks great with the barberry behind it and these dianthus in front. Our Eden rose, which is the climbing rose over here, is blooming now. And we have what I believe is the Comtesse du Bouchard clematis that is climbing up it. See if I can get the rose without my shadow. I don't think so at this angle. Look at all the new growth on this arborvitae topiary. You know, I was just at the nursery and I looked at one that was an arborvitae smaller than this, and it was a triple topiary, which could easily be done for $90. So if you haven't watched my video on how to topiary an arborvitae, do so, because boy, if you like topiaries, that is a good way to go and to make one that doesn't cost a whole lot on your own, and they're real quick. We will be trimming these barberries. You guys, I know I keep saying it, but we're going to. This spirea over here, which is a double place spirea, is starting to bloom. Isn't that pretty? All of the mums got their good Chelsea chop, both in the back garden as well as in the front garden. And I think that this 9-bark, the Little Devil 9-bark, looks beautiful even after it has bloomed. You can see the red seed pods that have been fertilized by the bees. And then way in the back here is a deep red rose. That one should bloom most of the season. We have our Violetta de Bordeaux. No, that's a type of fig. This one is the Violet Star, so it is the Étoile de Violette Clematis. And we have a Strawberry Sunday hydrangea that is putting on its buds. And heading over here towards the fountain garden, I think the urns look really nice, and there is so much in bloom over here as well. It's like where to look, right? The thyme is in bloom even. This is a beautiful variegated thyme with the catmint, cat's pajamas, nepeta, as well as this spirea, the superstar spirea. And over here, our incredibles are starting to open. Some of the very first blooms opening today. These are massive also. These are probably about 3 feet, maybe 3.5 feet tall. I'm going to be digging the liatris out of this garden bed because I want to make sure to make room for this one right here to really fill in. Now I think this is purple gentian. I didn't plant this, but it has showed up in my garden, and some years there's more than others. And this little path is just covered with the Pinkadot phlox and the foxglove and the Johnson's blue geranium back here. Really, really pretty. And you see we have another evening rose hibiscus coming up. And we still are having lots of blooms on our mock orange, which has been fantastic because it smells so wonderful, you guys. So good. And it makes a beautiful cut flower also. It lasts quite well, and it brings the fragrance right in with it. Our Japanese maple is really starting to take on some height here, which is great because we need that in this garden border. Nothing much taller than the fence other than our redbud down there. But this one will definitely get taller than the fence. And our quickfire is almost open. This one also, you can see tiny buds just spitting upwards, getting ready to open. And then another arborvitae topiary here. We have some Johnson's blue geranium back behind this forsythia, as well as the autumn frost hostas. So let's check out the front garden. Well, here we are on the side of the house with our beautiful tree form of the burning bush as well as the viburnum, which both look very healthy now and the right size. And these royal ferns are now over my head, so definitely bigger than 5 feet tall. They are absolutely amazing. And their foliage is just, between these and the tassel ferns, I'm just, I don't know, entranced, I guess. Our liatris is getting so tall, and they just seem like they're ahead of time. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but in my head they don't bloom for another couple of weeks. Our little Henry Sweet Spires on the other side, though, are doing really good. They're so healthy and happy along the edge of this pathway. So I'm super pleased with how they're doing, and I think we made a good choice for this area. Well, down along this garden, we have our tiny wine ninebarks, which look a lot like the little devil ninebarks right now. They have been pollinated and have their seed heads forming. I've popped a couple of yellow calibrachoas right in here. That's all their name is yellow calibrachoas. Those were also by proven winners, but I thought they made a nice little reflection of the color of the African daisies in the pots. And then we also have all the rage rose in this garden bed, which is a very nice soft buttery yellow that kind of fades to white over time. We've given these boxwoods a nice trim, and I also even kind of tightened up the foliage on the false cypress in this garden just because I want it to be nice and full and thick. It's doing really well. We're getting some buds on this all the rage rose also. So normally not a yellow person, but I feel like it just needed a pop of cheeriness this year. I guess yellow's the color. We're getting some nice new growth on the barberries here, and the dianthus are really in bloom. I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to try to get rid of the blue muffin viburnums that are suffering from the beetle damage during the summer, or if I'm going to wait until the fall. They have some nice fresh growth on them that doesn't appear to be damaged, so I might just leave them until fall. Next year the problem will only get worse because the beetles will have laid their eggs on that. It's very unfortunate. Our skyrocket juniper is getting very tall. It's probably about 7 feet tall now. And you can see the giant blooms. This black lace elderberry is gorgeous. And down at the base here we have some penstemon. Well, let's take a look over here at the sun garden, which has certainly filled in a lot, and the dianthus have been loving this weather. Look how big they are. Those each started just as one small little teeny tiny flat plug. Just this size. Next year it'll be twice or 3 times that size. Our bobos are really filling out, and I'm starting to see some buds forming on them. The Schubertii in this bed also looks amazing. I love it when those bobos bloom. They really are something. The Dreamland geranium are looking quite pretty. They have these very light pink flowers on them. I can see that our Magic Show Ever After Veronica are just about ready to bloom. Those usually do bloom with the daisies that we have here, which are a beautiful goldfinch yellow daisy. Now, remember I told you I dug up that Bobo hydrangea. I actually dug up 2 from the back garden. They were clearance plants from last year, so I have placed one right here, and I placed the other one right here. So we actually have 5 Bobos all kind of in a curve underneath of this weeping cherry. And I think that's going to look really, really pretty as they kind of fill in and start to even out over time. The oak leaf hydrangea in this garden bed is quite far ahead compared to the one in the back garden. Just look at those blooms starting. They are smaller out here in the sunshine than they are in the shade. So they definitely seem to prefer the part shade or part sun to the full sun, but it definitely tolerates it very well. All right, well, let's take a look up here at the porch. because it's looking quite beautiful right now in terms of the blooms also. Our saxifrage got all potted up, and I trimmed back some of the spent blooms, and it's just going to start spilling over the edges of this pot and looking gorgeous. And we're continuing to get some nice new growth on this Japanese maple here. We'll be planting out these catch flies soon, the light pink blooms with that deep dark foliage. And look at all the new growth that we're getting on these amaryllis bulbs. They're super duper happy. I got some pine cones. My neighbor gave me some pine cones and some sticks, so I put them in our moss garden back here, which I think looks pretty. And I don't know if you've ever seen one of these sky pencil hollies bloom, but this one is in bloom, so I think we're going to have some berries maybe this year. This is the first time I've seen it bloom quite so profusely. And we have the opening act blush pink right here. This is the Phlox, along with the wee hosta and the June hosta here. Everything's very, very lush in this garden bed also. Plenty of growth on the pieris in this garden bed as well, which makes me very pleased because you could actually see it above some of the other foliage. And the fothergillas are doing great on the corner here. Now, in this garden bed, you'll see this is where I actually transplanted my variegated boxwoods. So I placed those two right in front of the blue arrow junipers, which I think is going to be really great. So I'm waiting for the foliage, the new growth to kind of come out a little bit more, and then I will trim those up and make them nice and neat. And this barberry is putting on its color now, which is a really nice color echo on the wine or spilled wine weigela right here. I'm going to have to take the cover off my Gatsby Moon hydrangea because this is doing so well. Let's take a peek, shall we? There we go. Look how big it is. It's like a foot tall now. It's got two really nice sturdy stems. So exciting. And let me just show you our back in black sedum that we planted because it's putting on some nice new growth right here. Back in black. Doesn't this corner look pretty? You can see I still have some variegated dianthus on the corner here. But look at that blue shadow fothergilla. We're just going to keep looking at that. Oh, I just love that color of blue. It's almost like a white. We have our limelight hydrangea looking good, putting on some height here. I think next year that one's really going to thrive. We have our bear's breeches back here, and that one is probably going to, I can see some of the spikes that are coming up that will have the blooms on it. And this last week we've put on several inches of growth on this low growth fragrant sumac. Our hypericum is getting ready to bloom over here as well. This one will be a beautiful bright yellow color. I do need to move this barberry a little bit. It just doesn't have enough room right here. So maybe I'll move it forward in this garden bed just about a foot. We have our first Verbena bonariensis bloom right here. And our Dealey Bopper little alliums are coming on. Decephalon, I believe they're called. Also called drumstick alliums because they look a little like a drumstick. And our beautiful, what I call the bird bath garden. Now this bird bath, somebody I think said I should put some water in here, but this is an old fountain and I got it for like $100 off of Facebook Marketplace. Probably like $1,000 fountain, but it does have some cracks in it. So it doesn't necessarily hold water really well. So it really more is a garden statue. And that's how I'm using it. Now I could line it with something potentially and even maybe plant in it, which would be really pretty. So I've thought about that as well. But, you know, kind of like I did the moss garden. Anyhow, I think it looks really beautiful with all of those geraniums over here on the side. Well, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed walking around the garden with me. I know I did, and I'm looking forward to seeing even more blooms here in the future. We'll see you next time. Bye!